Hi Anti-Society, welcome back to the Antisocial Planet. Today we are checking out Stray Kids Get Lit. It does hurt me a little bit to say that with any kind of sincerity, because I'm just a nerd that grew up in farmland Canada. There is no context in which I could say the word lit and not be self-deprecating unless it's short for literature. Every time I see it, it does make me start singing, get cool. So hey, if we're gonna have maybe a reference to that, all's forgiven. But I honestly don't know. I have no idea going into this. We've had a little bit of a mixture because the last song was upbeat, but also a little bit heavy topic-wise from this album. As we get into more of the other releases in the middle part of the album, I never know what I'm gonna get with a Stray Kids song. So I'm excited. We get a video for this one too. There were so many videos for their comebacks. It's a lot. I do have Get Cool stuck in my head. Is this just like a upgrade maybe? Because I feel like cool and lit are very much in the same area in terms of slang meaning, but I don't know. That is a weird synth. Han, please, sir, do not come at me that strongly. Thank you. I feel like starting with Felix, that doesn't seem fair. There's an intensity to the Felix voice. And then you go into Hyunjin, and I'm like, Hyunjin has just got so much energy and character to his voice. And then you got Han. I'm like, what? Sir, hold up. What are we doing? I got distracted by the production. That's okay. Not you slowing down on me. Okay, so we got party until there's a noise complaint. I feel like noise complaints is just something that Stray Kids is used to. People are like, why are you so loud? And they're like, they wrote a whole album that was playing off of the fact that people say that they're loud. But the idiot over there is spacing out. What's happening right now? Are we doing a party track? That makes me even more worried, especially since there are two meanings for lit in my brain. The slang for something cool, or short for literature, but there's also a recreational activity associated with the word lit, some of which is legal in Canada. But for the sake of YouTube, I'm gonna leave it there. They're all adults. I'm not judging. But it feels like there's a vibe. There's a party vibe. I mean, pour it with sparkling water. Oh, wait. Innie's voice there. Ooh, I hear you, Lino. Everybody pause, because if this is gonna be a party track, Stray Kids drops are already intense and a lot. Innie's oh yeah was very cute though. Good like pulling up his chest voice there. Did we just say we're so cocky? We just had top line where we're saying we're not cocky. But now, what's happening? The anti-drop there of this very, again, I'm used to Stray Kids songs having strange synths in them, but it always throws me off guard because I don't know what kind of strange synth I'm gonna get, what kind of weird mixture of samples they're gonna mush together and put through filters. And I'm like, what am I even listening to anymore? And this really intense percussion beat in it. But I was expecting something that would be more dance oriented with the drop in the production, just because we have this party vibe with the lyrical content. Look, Lino said party like crazy, very intensely. So we also had Bang Chan also said we're cool. We are the cool guys. Ooh, the cadence there. Ooh. Hyunjin, please. The way that they're pulling up their chest voices, like we had it with Lino earlier, and then Ian's doing it here, just giving a shout vibe to it, right? Like pulling up your chest voice, getting a mix is sitting where the shout area of your voice is. It adds that almost like shouting above the noise or energy or like aggressiveness to the overall song, because it does have that feeling of we're gonna do whatever we want and, I don't know, be mad. It's just, I don't know, if you don't like it, I guess you're gonna be mad, whatever. Even though I'm saying before, until we get the noise complaint, we're just gonna do what we want until you're gonna have to call in reinforcements if you want to actually stop us from going after what they want. Like I was saying before, it seems like a party song, at least from lyrical content and the name of the song, but that benefit of the doubt for Stray Kids of knowing that their songs always have more meanings behind the way they choose to use language. I feel like it could also be their success, right? Being on top of the world, or like the adrenaline of success or performing, like they're saying, like dance in front of everyone with confidence. That could be in a party setting, but it could also be them as performers. They dance for a living, and concerts have a bit of a party vibe to them. You can be upset. You can be someone who is trying to stop us or get in our way or prevent us from going after our successes, but it's not going to stop. Like, we're going to keep having concerts, we're going to keep playing shows, we're going to keep getting invited to perform places because we should be. We're the cool guys. It makes me think of, oh, we're popular. We're the ones that people want to be associated with because our name brings attention and we bring a certain caliber to this, right? Especially with, we have S-Class on this, we have 5 Star as the album, right? This whole album feels very much like they are flexing on the fact that they are super successful at this point in their career. They've gotten the awards, they've gotten the recognition, they get invited to all the things, they've done a bunch of events outside of just being musicians at that point, right? You have to remember that they've done other stuff after this album came out, because I'm still behind, but this is them being like, we are successful. This isn't about us being like, oh, we are going to be successful, or we're going to keep fighting to be successful, or someday we'll get recognized. As we have the recognition, it's there. So I feel like we could get a few different angles to it. Again, benefit of the doubt because Stray Kids. Sir. With this like, don't shush me. I'm gonna go back though. But the muted synth in the same kind of cadence as we had in the chorus and at the beginning, but muted way down. Might be a different synth, but it's following the similar thing. Han, sir, you didn't need to go off like that. I like that today's concept isn't important. I like that idea of, hey, it doesn't matter what I'm doing. Like I was saying before, the song is through the lens of partying or the party scene or what that means, but taking it from a different side of, hey, it doesn't matter what our schedule is for today. We're going to do super well. We're going to be the star of the show. We're going to be the reason that people tune in because we're part of it, right? So it has that feeling. And then Han coming in, like, I just... the do again. I like the layered vocals coming in. It's just like an insane drop for no reason. Sir, okay, so, multiple things. We also had the end of Han's line where he talked about, like, my moods are gonna go up and down, which I also think is interesting because we had Dance Like Crazy before this. So I was thinking Party Like Crazy, Dance Like Crazy, both of those songs within this, but very different vibes lyrically, right? Which I find interesting. I don't actually know which order all of the videos came out, so I'm going by the order of what they are on the album, not by the order that the videos were released. And I actually don't know if there are other songs in between. Dance Like Crazy, Party Like Crazy in this one, but also saying my moods aren't going to go up and down is very different from the lyrical content of Dance Like Crazy, which was very much what is going on internally is very complex and there's a lot happening there. I'm going to turn the volume all the way down on that and instead focus on getting lost in music, dancing, or whatever it may be. It could even be connected to losing yourself in a celebration or party or concert. Being able to go on stage, perform at a concert, and be the idol persona and hide the fact that there's something more complex going on inside because you just need to separate yourself from whatever is going on. That is a back and forth and up and down, the ping pong with yourself of how you are feeling. And it's interesting to have that paralleled in the lyrical content here. Ooh, they'll like just put it down and then party? Could be similar vibe as well. Love that slide up too. Is Han. Not you slowing everything down and giving me Felix vocals. I beg your pardon. Now you actually screaming at me, even though before I was talking about how they're in this mix range where they are very much singing from this place of a shout cadence. You can hear it in their voice. They could sing those parts in a way that has less tension in the way they're placing their voices, but they're doing it very intentionally because it does have that shouting energy, aggressive energy. And just going through the lyrics, especially with Felix's part here, feels self-destructive, which is an interesting twist. I was comparing it to Dance Like Crazy, which was very much, it's okay to take a break if you need to. I think that we all have things that overwhelm us. Whenever something negative is going on in your life, it is overwhelming because none of us want to feel bad about stuff. None of us want to be dealing with difficult things, and throws a wrench in the way that we're trying to live our lives or the plans that we've made. And sometimes you need to just step back from it for a little bit and not let it consume you. But this feels almost like going too far with that and being a little bit self-destructive, like the I don't want to do it repeated and then they'll put it down and dance like crazy, desperately needing to run away from it. And then this being like the sun will rise again, it will start again. And then the dead expression, at least for today, shall we dance all night, feels like there's a certain self-destruction. Even the scream there is a fun little thing of having Han pitch his voice up to do that. But also with their voices going to this more shouting cadence almost feels like a cry for help, desperately shouting the self-destructive behavior and at the same time not getting the attention or help that you want. Even this song, the beats and the vibe of something like that is called Get Lit, right? That in of itself is thought of being more in a positive or an expected light. It could be someone who is self-destructing in plain sight of everyone around them and no one is realizing it because everyone doesn't see the issue in something like wanting to dance or wanting to party or indulging in some of those recreational activities. Maybe that's just me being Canadian, but be smart about it, be responsible, but like I ain't here to judge you on that. Seeing that on a surface level, even me saying be smart about it in moderation, none of those things are necessarily wrong. But if it's something that consumes you, let's also escape into this of dancing all night and the dead expression, the needing to run into this destructive behavior as a way of escaping something that is going on internally. I don't know. Maybe music video will give me something else. Even Crush It Like King Kong feels destructive. I don't think of King Kong as someone who does something positive. Let's go. Don't be making noises at me. sound at the end. But even though I was just thinking the repeated "we won't die young" or "look good or die trying" feels desperate, self-destructive, perhaps on the brink of breaking, which is interesting, especially for something where the album itself is 5-star. The lead track is S-class. There's a ton of confidence and say, hey, we're at the top of our game. And there's some of that kind of braggadocious feeling coming through this of the I'm so cocky, right? In contrast to them saying we are not cocky with Top Line, but Top Line also having a lot of confidence in the lyrical content. Even at the top, that doesn't mean that you are beyond struggle. It doesn't mean that because you've reached a new caliber, something that they've worked very hard to get to the success that they have now, doesn't mean that they stop having problems, doesn't mean that they don't have things going on, doesn't mean that there aren't other pressures and stuff. The higher you are, the farther you have to fall, right? And the harder that fall is going to be when you hit the bottom. So I think that it's interesting to have in this. It makes me very curious about the other songs. There might be one more, possibly 2 more songs where they have videos for it, which makes me interested to see where those are going to go. And also this song in the context of the overall album, of how they arrange the themes and story throughout it, because it makes me want to know what happens after, right? Like, it makes me curious to know what comes after this point, because it does feel like there's a breaking point here. And even the little like sound at the end, you know, it's playful, but also I'm worried. Like, even the like swerve we had, right, with Hyunjin's part of this repeated like swerve is almost like avoidance, right? It is not being able to travel in a set path. It's avoiding things in the way. And yeah, it feels like there's a lot of those vibes in this. I'm always cautious because sometimes I am dead on in what I am talking about and I interpret songs, and other times people are like, that's not it at all. I feel like I'm 50-50 chance. I'm either very much in the realm of where I'm supposed to be, or I'm in a completely different ballpark. In fact, I'm playing a different sport. So I'm always cautious about it, but very intrigued about what the video is going to be like. I was overconfident with this one. I was like, it's a shorter song. I will not be here forever. One of these days, I'm going to make a not super long reaction to a single song, but not this day. Ooh, sir. A lot of strutting right out the gate. That's okay. I was going to talk about Hyunjin's eyes there, but also, sir, we're just on our runway immediately. Also interesting to have the lock and chain around his neck aesthetic, but also if we're talking about being trapped in I can't have him looking at me. If we're talking about being trapped in a loop or destructive behavior or something, interesting to almost be chained to that or locked in that. Sir. His cute little face though. But interesting in the lyrics here. Lyric videos aren't always the most accurate. Translation is always a bit of a crapshoot in terms of going from one language to another. There's always going to be nuance there. But it said like addicted right away, which feels a bit destructive. Ooh. Sir. Ooh, interesting that we have the spinning camera too, this instability already. I was saying runway before, but it looks like we also are dealing with some kind of fashion aesthetic in the way that we're going about this, with picking at the clothes off the rack, picking at the shoes and being in the closet and all of that. I like the camera following over like Han's shoulder too. It's like the company Stray Kids. Fashionistas. Sir. Ooh, okay. Look, they always have cool transitions, but that stepping on himself? Again, if we're going with the lyrical content, seems pointed. Even the flashing lights, distract myself with this still frame. The instability of a flashing light, but also this constant fluctuation between light and dark is really interesting too. Even the glitching out. Spinning camera again. Don't bite your lip at me. Sir? I know that you're trying to communicate some other stuff here, but... No. Ooh, the magazine cover too. Cool transition, the wipe screen there. Also interesting that we have the magazine because we also had in top line the comic book. There's a certain hero vibe with that, but they were also doing crimes in that one. So it's interesting now to piece together some of what's going on with this album. Outfit on display though. Didn't mean to rewind to that, did I? Maybe. Maybe subconsciously. Sir, do not raise your eyebrow at me like that. No, we are trying to have possibly a serious conversation about self-destructive behavior. You cannot be behaving like that, okay? Not distracting me, making my attention swerve. Okay, I see what you're doing. I can't rewind in this. It's fine. Interesting to have it like immediately go from the mannequin though to him though. Sir. I like that we have 3 Raja doing the sound mixing there. Interesting. I like that we're getting some of the color introduced, the reds, also the star details. I find it interesting, again, the mannequin being replaced with Hyunjin. He's doing a similar stance, but it seems like they're a little bit different. Him standing in for the mannequin feels really interesting too, not only in terms of maybe being reduced down to almost like a prop or like wanting to be reduced down, simplified down because you're trying to escape from something, like almost reducing yourself down into a stereotype, right? Because if we are going with some of the party imagery, but also some of the success mixed into it, there is, at least in a Western world, I don't know entirely with Korea because idol culture and it's a little bit different in terms of how it's filtered, but here in the West anyway, there's definitely this feeling of when someone reaches a certain amount of success, there's also going to be a certain amount of self-destructive behavior that comes along with that, right? I think that nobody is supposed to have that much attention and criticism thrown at them all the time and the pressure of that, and obviously there's a lot of that too with idol culture. There's a significant amount of criticism and public attention and scrutiny, so definitely some of that could come into that, and I think that a lot of people struggle. We know that there are quite a few people within even the idol industry that struggled with that particular thing, and to varying results. I think that it's interesting to have this fashion kind of image that's very much part of their jobs as idols, but it is also simplifying them down to being something that wears the clothes, right? Reducing themselves down to almost like a mannequin for these products. I think that it's fascinating to have that image, especially for someone like Hyunjin, who from the very beginning of him trying to have a career has been told you don't have to do anything, you're pretty enough that you can just stand there and you're going to be successful. And he's worked very, very, very hard to prove that he is talented. He's extremely talented. The reason I discovered Stray Kids is because I saw a clip of him dancing and I was like, he is so good that I have to know who he is. I said the dreaded words of, I need to know his name. And it was all downhill from there. I think that it's also interesting to have Hyunjin specifically, the person who steps in as the mannequin there. Fascinating images all around. I don't know who didn't give Han the notice on what the dress code was, though. Ooh, this cute smile, though. It's cutie. Now, I know we're dealing with some other stuff, but also again buried in these objects, these material things, this feeling maybe crushed under the weight of expectation or responsibilities, or this place that you found yourself in, almost like smiling through it, of being like, this is fine, because you are leaning in to those destructive behaviors, spewing nonsense, staring at the wall, emptying yourself out, and as if I'm crazy. I feel like also having Lino of all people talk about being crazy is like a little bit on the nose. I mean, he's a little bit of a manic vibe to him on occasion, which is why I adore him. But interesting to have this almost buried underneath the thing that you're trying to lose yourself in. Do we have a smiley face painted on the computer as well? The branding too of like Stray Kids. The autographs too. Sir. I can't rewind in this. I don't know why y'all have to come for me when I'm trying to have a serious discussion about things like the autographs on the wall and all the branding of Stray Kids, right? In this very, I don't know, almost like corporate setting, right? Like I was saying before, we have Stray Kids branding, but that in of itself also very interesting here, right? Because that is a brand for them, right? It is something that is made up of them as individuals, but it is also something bigger than them. So it's interesting to have that as branding, and also in the context of it not being necessarily them being musicians, but them being like associated with like fashion industry, right? So it's they're there. Again, we have the look good or die trying. This idea of as long as we look good, as long as we're fashionable, as long as the pictures are great, then no one is going to notice that there's other things going on underneath the surface.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. We're not gonna die, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Han's facial expressions, though. Don't kick me, sir. Why are we throwing a single shoe? Ooh, okay, interesting outfit with the crown, pearls, and everything with him. Also being on camera, giant screen behind him, handheld camera feels very much like always being on display. Almost this like, I don't know, that handheld camera almost makes me think vlogging or live streams, almost like this sincerity with that. Because when we see those pieces of content from idols, they're trying to be more connected with their fans. But is that actually them? Do they have to do that while still putting on the persona? Yes, right? It's them wanting to share with fans, showing up and wanting to not just be seen as modeling fashion or singing, dancing on stage or whatever, wanting to connect on a more human, humble side. But it also is a job, right? Every vlog that they make and every live stream that they do is also them working at a job. They're paid for it. It doesn't mean that the sincerity isn't part of that, but it is something that is part of their job as an idol. I find it interesting to have that with this moment where it feels more like we're getting some of that sincerity. Felix's lines feel more like we're seeing the cracks in that mask. And I think that's interesting to have that switch in the camera view of it. And persona too. Sir. And then we have the camera was like falling. Another sideways camera. Ooh, even that, he opens up the curtain and there's a bunch of cameras there. I was thinking that earlier because we had the pictures being taken, but also the flashing lights I was talking about before is like constantly having a camera in your face, constantly being on display, constantly having to be a certain person, right? And even them being in this room that has tinfoil on the sides of it, almost being in this box, and it's very reflective and manufactured, and there's almost this overly corporate feeling to the overall aesthetic of this. Very clean, very modern, very minimalist, and very much like they need to fit in to that particular aesthetic. And I do think it's interesting that we got some more like grungier looks or fashion in the second part of the song, where that was when I was starting to be like, I think there might be some more stuff to the way that they're singing, to these lyrics, to what's going on, starting to see that there's more going on with what they're talking about, as opposed to the sterilized image that there was before. Oh, his little face.
Let's go.
literally being on like a pedestal. And the glitch in the camera. Ooh, and even then at the end where there's a bunch of, there's probably more to the story, but even there of like having like multiples of him, like having like double vision, the flashing lights and stuff, I was, ooh, my brain doesn't entirely like this, but literally being put up on a pedestal, there's other people now in this environment around them. It isn't just the members, and there's cameras constantly up, and it's like they're partying, but also there's cameras around and there's other people and much darker lighting with this red hue to it. So there's definitely, it feels like this destruction happening. Even the glitching, right? Even that of like it's put sideways, right? Like it's not oriented properly. And I even like that with Tengbin's part where he like literally it was all sideways, which feels very interesting too, of literally being off kilter, not being right side up, having there already be issues to grounding themselves. Fascinating. And again, I might be completely wrong, but that's the vibes that I'm getting from it. And it makes me very interested in what kind of the continuation of that is. I want to know what song is immediately after this and where it falls in terms of the video releases with the other songs that have videos, because I think that it's fascinating to have this song in between. It's Dance Like Crazy after this song video wise, but before it album wise. I don't know. I'm gonna look it up right now. Okay, very interesting. One is that in the videos, the next one after this is actually Top Line, which I think is interesting because I was talking about how that song is them, I don't know, maybe that is them crashing out a little bit and that it is them committing crimes. Talking about the connection of the magazine and then the comics, but that song definitely could be seen through the lens of watching the video of them being like, they used to be maybe part of a legitimate business or whatever, and we get the red outfits, which they definitely had in Top Line, didn't they? The red, black and white, because I was talking about how that very much harkens to previous eras of Stray Kids to have like a monochrome with red accents and stuff. So we had some of that going near the end of this, transitioning in. So that's very interesting in terms of the story there, and them going into this, I don't know, braggadocious, we're actually doing great, we're at the top of our game, but through the lens of someone who has crashed out a little bit is fascinating. It makes me want to go back and watch that video again right after this to pull apart those images through a different lens. But in the album, there's a song called Collision. So that's something for me to agonize about because that feels like it might be a story there. So just fascinating to me to see the differences in the way that the videos were released order-wise in relation to the songs, because I think the album, it may be like lyrically wise the story that they're telling, but then the visuals of the videos taking on a slightly different vibe, or rearranging the story to be like, how did we get from point A to point B? Because I think the first video that they released after, I should know this, I just looked at it, but the video that they released right after S-Class was Dance Like Crazy, right? Yeah, they did S-Class and then Dance Like Crazy, which also interested me. I wouldn't have expected them to go the route of something lyrically has a lot more darker tones to it as follow-up to a song like S-Class. So interesting. I want to like not go down the rabbit hole too much of my theories and stringing together story stuff because I haven't heard the rest of the album, and I think I have at least one more video to check out. So I will reserve my thoughts until further notice. But I hope you enjoyed listening to that along with me. You can click this playlist to go into my previous reactions, or you can subscribe so you miss next time I post a Stray Kids reaction. I will see you in the next video. Bye.